imagine for a second, just put yourself in this situation. You are 16 years old.
Right. Not even old enough to drive in most places.
Exactly. You're sitting in a boardroom. Your parents are next to you looking, completely overwhelmed.
Oh, totally out of their depth.
Yeah. And across the table from you are representatives from literally billion-dollar multinational corporations.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. They aren't talking about your jump shot or your passing range.
No, they're talking equity.
Right. They are talking about retaining 20% of your future equity. They are trading your human potential exactly the way a hedge fund trades a stock option.
It's just wild.
It is. I mean, welcome to professional football in 2026, The grass and the ball are still out there somewhere, but the actual trading floor is completely made of human beings.
It really is. I mean, the whole, the romantic illusion of the sport, that idea of a local kid playing for his hometown club just for the love of the shirt, it's just gone.
Completely gone.
Yeah, it's been completely stripped away by the mechanics of modern global finance. What you and I are looking at today, it's an ecosystem that is ruthlessly efficient, fiercely competitive, and just entirely devoid of sentimentality.
And that is exactly the chaos we were wading into today on this deep dive. But before we get into the absolute bloodbath that is this transfer window, I just want to take a really quick second.
Yeah, of course.
First off, I have to say a massive, massive thank you to all of you who are still so faithfully watching and listening to us.
Absolutely.
Your continued loyalty, it really means the world to us. And please don't forget to take a moment right now to like, share, and subscribe.
It really is the engine that keeps us going.
Exactly. It allows us to keep doing this, to keep unpacking the world's most complex and, chaotic information for you. Because looking at the date today, July 22, 2026, we are smack in the dead center of a frantic summer transfer window.
Oh, it is absolute madness right now.
It is. And my promise to you, the listener, is very simple today. Out of the massive stack of reports we've gathered, I am making sure all the news that is there is reported.
We're leaving nothing out.
Not a single piece of news will be left behind today. Every confirmed deal, every hijacked transfer, every single managerial shift in these sources is on the table.
It's a literal mountain of paper. And honestly, what is most striking to me is the interconnectedness of it all.
Right. It's a web.
Yeah, a massive web. Today, we're going to trace the lines from the richest men on planet Earth eyeing Premier League institutions all the way down to those 16-year-old kids you mentioned signing their first scholarship contracts.
Because the ripples from the top create tidal waves at the bottom.
Precisely.
So let's just start at the absolute top of the food chain then. Because when you have sovereign wealth and tech billionaires pouring billions into these squads, the entire tectonic plate of the sport shifts.
Oh, without a doubt.
And the reports coming in from multiple media outlets today have completely upended the landscape. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos has officially joined a consortium to buy a minority stake in Liverpool Football Club.
Right, from their current owners, Fenway Sports Group, FSG.
Yeah. And to me, this is just mind-blowing.
Well, it's a seismic event. You're taking a club that has historically prided itself on a very specific, sustainable economic model.
Right, the whole working class identity.
Exactly. And you're introducing the fourth richest man in the world into their boardroom.
I mean, it's Jeff Bezos. But, okay, let me push back a bit, because a minority stake sounds like, I don't know, he's just dipping his toes in the water.
You think it's a vanity project?
Yeah. Like maybe buying a fancy luxury asset to show off to his friends on a yacht. Why is a minority stake so seismic?
Because you have to consider the trajectory of major sports acquisitions over the last decade. A minority stake in a franchise of this magnitude is almost never the end game.
It's not.
No, it operates as a Trojan horse. Think about it. You buy 10, maybe 15% of the club. What does that actually get you?
A really nice seat in the VIP box.
Well, yes, but more importantly, it gets you a seat at the big table without the immediate burden of total operational control.
Ah, I see.
Right, you get to open the books, you understand the internal mechanics, you audit the stadium infrastructure, you analyze their global merchandising reach in Asia and North America.
You essentially get to look under the hood of the car before you buy the whole thing.
Exactly. You learn exactly where the inefficiencies are. And then, when the current owners, FSG, are ready for an exit strategy, you already have the right of first refusal.
And you have the insider knowledge to buy the rest of the pie.
Precisely.
Okay, so let's follow that hypothetical to its logical conclusion, because this is where my mind immediately goes as a fan of the sport.
Okay, lay it out.
let's say this initial minority purchase snowballs over the next 2 years, and Bezos eventually buys FSG's entire share. Does that just shatter Liverpool's entire modern identity?
That's the big fear, right?
Yeah. I mean, for years, FSG has operated on this very strict Moneyball strategy. Find undervalued assets, sell high, operate within a strict wage structure.
Very analytical.
Right. And it's built on a working-class, socialist-rooted city ethos in Liverpool. So suddenly, you're bringing in the absolute king of global corporate capitalism with infinite money.
The culture clash is going to be the most fascinating socio-political experiment in English football, frankly.
How so?
Well, Liverpool fans view their success as inherently organic. They view themselves in direct opposition to state-backed clubs like Manchester City or Newcastle United.
Right, they pride themselves on earning it.
Exactly. But if Bezos takes over, Liverpool theoretically has access to resources that dwarf even sovereign wealth. They would never, ever have to sell a star player to fund a rebuild again.
Yeah, it's like turning on the financial takeover cheat code in a video game. But doesn't that ruin the game for the fans?
In what sense?
If you have limitless resources, does winning the Premier League feel earned anymore, or does it just feel bought?
Well, that is the existential crisis facing the fan base. But from a purely regulatory standpoint, we have to remember that infinite wealth doesn't actually translate to infinite spending.
Oh, because of the financial rules.
Right. We have to look at the profitability and sustainability rules, PSR.
Let's quickly remind the listener how PSR actually functions here, because it's not just a traditional American salary cap, is it?
No, it's significantly more complex than that. PSR essentially dictates that a club can only lose a certain amount of money over a rolling 3-year period.
Okay.
So your spending on transfers and wages must be proportionate to the revenue the club organically generates.
Right.
Which means Jeff Bezos could have $1 trillion in his personal bank account, but he cannot just wire £300 million into Liverpool's transfer budget to buy 3 elite strikers tomorrow.
So his personal wealth is decoupled from the club's spending limit.
Exactly. The spending is bottlenecked by the club's actual commercial, broadcasting, and match day revenue.
But hold on, we've seen how clubs get around this, right?
Oh, there are always loopholes.
Yeah, like you're telling me a consortium involving the founder of Amazon couldn't magically find a massive, incredibly lucrative new commercial sponsorship.
I see where you're going with this.
Like suddenly, Amazon Web Services wants to be the sleeve sponsor for an unprecedented £200 million a year?
Right, and that is the exact loophole that regulatory bodies are constantly trying to police. They do these fair market value assessments.
Okay, how does that work?
Basically, if a related party, like a company owned by the club's owner, inflates a sponsorship deal beyond what the open market would normally dictate, the regulators step in.
They flag it as cheating.
Exactly. However, Liverpool is already a global behemoth.
Oh, right.
Arguing that a massive AWS sponsorship isn't fair market value for one of the most televised sports properties on earth. That is a very difficult legal battle for the Premier League to win.
So Bezos provides the capital, but he also provides the corporate synergy to hypercharge their legitimate revenue streams.
Exactly. It's brilliant, really.
It's corporate synergy applied to a game played on grass. But, let's look at the human toll of this multi-billion-dollar pressure cooker for a second.
It is immense.
It really is. When you have billionaires fighting over decimal points in revenue, the pressure to win becomes existential.
Absolutely.
And the burden of that multi-billion-dollar pressure doesn't just fall on the executives or the managers. It falls directly on the shoulders of the one person on the pitch who has to govern these billion-dollar assets in real time.
The referee.
Right. Which brings us to the second major report today. We have official confirmation from the sources that highly recognizable English referee Anthony Taylor has officially retired from officiating.
Wow.
And he's retiring at the age of 47.
A massively significant departure. I mean, Anthony Taylor has been the face of high-stakes Premier League clashes for over a decade.
Yeah, he's iconic.
When you think of a tense, title-deciding match, he is usually the figure in the center circle.
Here's where I struggle with this, though, and I think a lot of you listening might feel the same way.
Okay, what's the struggle?
To the average listener working a desk job or, even a physically demanding trade, retiring at 47 sounds absurd.
It sounds like early retirement.
Yeah. You're barely hitting your peak earning years. In almost any other profession, 47 is when you step into senior leadership. Why on earth is a referee forced out before they even hit 50?
You really have to look at the biological and psychological demands of what this sport has become by 2026.
Is it that much faster?
The physical toll is completely unprecedented. The transition speeds from defense to attack are so incredibly fast now that referees aren't just jogging around anymore.
Right.
They are executing high-intensity interval sprints. A referee is regularly covering 10 to 12 kilometers a match.
That's a 10K race every weekend.
And a significant portion of that is at a full sprint to keep up with 20-year-old elite athletes. Athletes who have been genetically optimized in sports science, trained since they were literal children.
Wow. So it's just basic biology catching up to them. The fast-twitch muscle fibers start to degrade.
Exactly. At 47, your body simply cannot recover from that kind of lactic acid buildup and muscular tearing weekend after weekend.
And you can't be slow in this game.
No, because if you lose half a step of pace, you end up 5 yards further away from a critical tackle. You lose the optimal viewing angle, and suddenly you make a massive mistake.
And if you make that mistake, the psychological weight kicks in.
Right.
Because we aren't just talking about a crowd yelling at you anymore.
Oh, the psychological burden is arguably heavier than the physical one. We live in the era of the panopticon in football.
Everyone is watching everything.
Every single decision Anthony Taylor makes is dissected by 30 high-definition cameras.
Right.
You've got slow-motion replays, biomechanical tracking, and VAR officials whispering in his ear constantly.
It sounds like a nightmare.
And then you add the social media element. Millions of people dissecting his every breath, analyzing his body language, sending death threats over a misplaced throw-in.
I mean, I can't even imagine trying to do my job with 30 managers standing over my shoulder, zooming in on my keyboard to see if I made a typo.
Right.
And if I did, millions of people scream at me on the internet. It is a preservation of sanity as much as it is a physical necessity to walk away.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, the hidden cost here is the loss of gravitas.
What do you mean?
Managing the ego of a superstar player, screaming in your face, a player who knows he earns more in a single week than the referee earns in 5 years, it takes a certain kind of inherent authority.
Respect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can teach a 28-year-old rookie referee the rule book, sure, and you can train them to run faster.
Yeah.
But you cannot teach them the emotional intelligence and the command presence that Anthony Taylor possessed.
It's an aura.
The Premier League will suffer a significant leadership vacuum on the pitch with his departure.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So from the people enforcing the rules under this crushing pressure, let's transition to the people who are tasked with dictating the style of play. Because managers are the ones trying to orchestrate this chaos. And the sources we have today show a truly fascinating shift in the global coaching carousel.
It really is a carousel right now.
Let's start with international football, specifically the Belgian national team.
The aftermath of major international tournaments always produces fascinating managerial shifts, but this one is particularly extreme.
It is a complete ideological whiplash. The reports confirm Mark van Bommel has officially been appointed as the new head coach of Belgium.
Right. Completely replacing Rudy Garcia.
And Van Bommel is signed on a contract taking him through to June 2028. Now, Rudy Garcia was known for being a bit of a pragmatist, right? A man-manager who relied on the relational skills of his players.
Very player-friendly.
But Mark van Bommel, as a player, this guy was an absolute enforcer. He was a cynical, ankle-biting midfielder who played on the absolute edge of the law.
Oh, he was ruthless.
Does that kind of aggression actually translate to his tactical setup as a coach?
It translates perfectly, and that is exactly why this is such a jarring appointment.
Okay, unpack that.
Van Bommel's coaching methodology is heavily reliant on positional play, rigid structure, and aggressive pressing triggers.
Very strict.
Extremely.
Right.
Rudy Garcia allowed a lot of creative freedom. He trusted his veteran players to sort of figure things out on the fly.
Right.
Van Bommel does not trust freedom. He trusts the system. He demands an incredibly high work rate, intense counter-pressing the second the ball is lost, and zero tolerance for passengers who don't want to track back.
Okay, so put yourself in the shoes of a veteran Belgian player for a second. This squad is essentially the remnants of their famous golden generation.
Right, the aging superstars.
These are players who have played at the highest levels, they've won Champions Leagues, and they are used to a certain level of deference and comfort. How do they respond to Van Bommel walking into the dressing room and operating like a drill sergeant heading into a 2028 Euro campaign?
Well, history tells us there are really only two outcomes when you apply authoritarian discipline to an aging squad of superstars.
Okay, what's outcome A?
Outcome A. The players realize their window is closing. They buy into the strictness, they find a renewed sense of collective purpose, and they become a beautifully cynical, hard-to-beat tournament machine.
They embrace the dark arts, basically.
Exactly. They become a nightmare to play against.
Where's outcome B?
Complete and utter mutiny.
Oof.
Yeah. The dressing room implodes within 6 months. The veteran players resent being treated like academy prospects. They rebel against the physical demands of the pressing system.
And then the leaks start.
Exactly. Agents start leaking stories of discontent to the press, and the entire project crashes and burns before the qualification rounds are even finished.
Wow.
The Belgian FA has essentially strapped themselves to a tactical rocket ship. It's either going to the moon or it's exploding on the launch pad.
It is going to be absolute cinematic drama, and I cannot wait to watch it unfold. But, moving from the pressure cooker of European international football to North America, we have another legendary player making a really fascinating career move.
Hernan Crespo.
Yes. Legendary Argentine striker Hernan Crespo has signed a contract to manage Mexican side Atlas until 2028.
This represents a very distinct trend in global football management, actually. And it highlights the shifting economic and tactical power centers in the Americas.
I have to be honest with you, Crespo to Mexico feels totally left field to me.
Really?
Yeah. You would assume an Argentine legend of his stature would either take a massive job in Argentina, like River Plate or Boca Juniors,
Right.
or rely on his playing connections to secure a mid-table job in Italy's Serie A. Why Atlas?
Well, to understand this, you really have to look at the structural reality of Liga MX compared to South American leagues.
Okay, lay it out for me.
Argentina is an absolute hotbed of talent, obviously. But the domestic league is incredibly volatile economically. It is marred by severe inflation, constant baffling changes to the league format.
Yeah, they change the rules every year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there is immense suffocating pressure from the supporters, where losing 3 games can literally result in riots.
It's a pressure cooker. What about Italy?
Italy is tactically rigorous, but incredibly impatient with young managers. They fire coaches at the drop of a hat.
Right.
So Liga MX sits in a very unique sweet spot.
How so? It's well-funded, right?
Highly well-funded. Liga MX teams operate with budgets that dwarf most South American clubs outside of maybe Brazil. The infrastructure is world-class, the salaries are reliable, and most importantly, it functions as an isolated tactical laboratory.
Collaboratory.
Yeah. The scrutiny of the European press isn't constantly analyzing every single substitution you make. A young manager like Crespo can go to Atlas, implement a long-term tactical vision, and actually have the time to build a project. The contract to 2028 gives him a massive runway.
Okay, so it's an investment in his own resume. He builds his philosophy in a well-resourced league, proves he can handle a multi-year project, and then leverages that success into a much larger European job down the line.
Precisely. A highly calculated stepping stone.
Speaking of building a diverse resume, we have to talk about Luciano Vulcano.
Oh, this is a fascinating one.
The reports confirm that Vulcano has agreed to join Italian side Monza as their youth team head coach.
Now, to the casual fan, a youth team appointment at a mid-table Italian club might seem like a total footnote.
Right, why are we even talking about it?
But if you look at the pedagogical implications of this hire, it is fascinating.
I want to read this guy's resume to you all listening because it is legitimately staggering.
Go for it.
Luciano Vulcano was an assistant coach at Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia. He was an assistant at Sunderland in the English leagues, and he was an assistant at AC Milan.
A crazy mix.
Right. What kind of tactical hybrid is a coach who has worked in the absolute opulence of the Saudi Pro League, the freezing meat grinder of the English lower leagues, and the tactical pinnacle of Italy?
It perfectly illustrates the total globalization of coaching education.
How so?
Well, 2 decades ago, an Italian youth coach would have exclusively worked in the Italian pyramid, right?
They'd just stay in Italy.
Exactly. Their entire worldview would be shaped by Italian defensive structures, the legacy of Catenaccio, deep blocks, rigid marking. They would be highly specialized, but philosophically blinkered.
But Vulcano is a global citizen, so break down what he actually pulls from those 3 distinct environments.
Let's start with Al Nassr. In Saudi Arabia, he is exposed to managing massive, world-class egos. You are dealing with players who earn vastly more than the coaching staff, operating in a league where the culture, the climate, and the training schedules are entirely different.
You have to be incredibly flexible.
You learn supreme adaptability and elite man management. Then he goes to Sunderland.
The English lower leagues.
The English football pyramid League One and the Championship is a grueling test of endurance. It's a 46-game season played in freezing rain on degrading pitches, where every single point is a brutal physical battle for survival.
You learn how to win ugly. You learn how to motivate players who are completely physically exhausted.
Exactly. You learn grit, you learn resilience. And finally, AC Milan. This is the tactical finishing school of Europe. Here, he absorbs elite tactical periodization.
Okay, stop right there. Tactical periodization. Let's apply the ELI 5 rule here. Explain, like, I'm 5. What does that actually mean on the training pitch?
Fair enough. In simple terms, traditional training used to separate the physical from the tactical.
Okay.
You would run laps for fitness, and then later you would do passing drills for tactics. Tactical periodization integrates them completely. You never run without a ball. And every single drill simulates a specific high-intensity game situation. You are training the brain to recognize tactical patterns while simultaneously conditioning the body's energy systems.
That sounds intense.
It is incredibly complex to design these training sessions.
So Monza isn't just hiring a guy to lay out cones for the under-18s. They are hiring a human supercomputer of global football knowledge.
That's a great way to put it.
He can teach the youth players the supreme tactical discipline of Italy, install the relentless physical intensity and resilience of England, and prepare them for the professional expectations of a global franchise environment like Saudi Arabia.
It is brilliant, forward-thinking scouting by Monza. They are creating academy players who will be perfectly adapted to the modern global game.
Well, from the coaching staff building the future, we have to move to the absolute engine room of global football wealth, where ambition and chaos are currently tearing the market apart.
The Premier League.
Let's talk about the English Premier League. Our sources highlight 3 different clubs acting in 3 completely divergent ways. Let's start with the absolute chaos engine, Chelsea.
Chelsea's strategy under their current ownership consortium has been aggressively disruptive. It defies all conventional squad-building logic.
Disruptive is a very polite word for it. Our reports confirm that Alejandro Garnacho, the former Manchester United player, has been told he has absolutely zero future at Chelsea.
Just frozen out.
He has been unceremoniously dumped on the transfer list. Aston Villa is aggressively pushing to recruit him, looking for a loan with a permanent option, though AS Roma is also fighting for his signature.
Right.
But Chelsea doesn't just sell, right? While they are tossing Garnacho out the back door, they are dragging new players in through the front. They just acquired Morgan Rogers, and immediately, the sources say, they are now actively hunting Crystal Palace defender Maxence Lacroix, with talks currently ongoing.
This dissects Chelsea's modern operational model perfectly.
It's madness.
It is a completely ruthless, highly volatile culture. They treat players not as long-term developmental projects or even human beings needing stability, but as pure, expendable financial assets.
Wow.
It is a hyper-capitalist perform immediately or leave immediately environment.
But I want to push back on the logic of this from the player's perspective. I just don't buy the financial upside argument. If you are Maxence Lacroix, you are sitting in a meeting with your agent. You literally just watch Chelsea instantly list a phenomenal talent like Garnacho the second he doesn't perfectly fit whatever temporary system the manager is using this month.
Yeah.
Why on earth would you sign that contract? Is the massive weekly wage really worth the complete lack of job security?
Yeah.
You move your family to West London, and you could be banished to train with the reserves in 6 months. It feels like career suicide.
It is undoubtedly a massive sporting risk, but we have to look at the economic reality of player contracts, specifically amortization.
Ah, that word again.
Yes. When Chelsea signs a player like Lacroix, they often offer incredibly long contracts, 7 or 8 years.
Right.
This is an accounting trick to spread the transfer fee out over the duration of the contract to comply with PSR. But for the player, that is guaranteed elite-level income for the better part of a decade.
But if they freeze you out, your value tanks, doesn't it?
Does it, though? Look at the evidence in our source material. Garnacho is unwanted. He is deemed a failure by Chelsea's internal metrics. Yet, who is bidding for him?
Aston Villa and Roma.
Exactly. Aston Villa, a club with Champions League ambitions, and AS Roma, a historic European giant. Chelsea acts as a bizarre kind of high society clearinghouse.
A clearinghouse?
The mere fact that Chelsea deemed you worthy of purchase elevates your baseline market value. Even if you fail in West London, you parachute into a fantastic situation elsewhere with your bank account significantly heavier.
It's failing upwards, essentially.
It really is.
It's terrible for locker room chemistry, but I see the cynical logic for the agent. Which perfectly transitions us to a club operating with actual surgical precision, Aston Villa.
Yes, a totally different approach.
Because while Chelsea is day trading, Villa is building a sustainable skyscraper. Aside from chasing Garnacho, the reports confirm Villa is actively targeting AC Milan left-back Pervis Estupiñán.
Right.
And this is a direct, immediate reaction to their current left-back, Luc Esteen, leaving for Paris Saint-Germain.
This is the hallmark of an elite sporting department. This is exactly how you manage upward mobility without succumbing to the panic of the food chain.
Normally, losing a starting player to a state-backed juggernaut like TSG sends a club into an absolute tailspin, right?
Oh, complete panic.
PSG comes in with oil money, rips your starting left back away, and the club scrambles to overpay for a mediocre replacement on deadline day. But Villa didn't even blink.
Because they operate with a shadow squad.
What's a shadow squad?
An elite director of football maintains a constantly updated list of 3 targets for every single position on the pitch, perfectly tailored to the manager's tactical system.
So they are always prepared.
Always. The moment PSG's interest in Digne became concrete, Villa already had Estupiñán identified, scouted, and contacted. They didn't lose a second.
And targeting Estupiñán specifically is a massive flex, I have to say. They aren't shopping in the bargain bins or taking a risk on an unproven kid. They are going directly to AC Milan, one of the most prestigious clubs in Serie A, and targeting a ready-made starter. It shows they are operating with Champions League-level ambition.
Absolutely.
They are signaling to the market that losing a player to PSG does not diminish their status. It simply provides the capital to fund their next evolution.
Exactly. It completely changes the psychological narrative around the club.
Oh.
They are a destination now, not just a stepping stone.
And then, sitting right between Chelsea's chaos and Villa's precision, we have Nottingham Forest.
Forest is fascinating right now.
They are entering a highly calculated new era. Our sources show Forest has secured Austrian midfielder Zeverschlager on a free transfer, signing him to a 2-year deal with a 1-year option.
A great piece of business.
Notably, this is the very first signing for their new head coach, Oliver Glasner. But simultaneously, Forest has slapped a 40 million bid on the table for Sporting's young defender, Ousmane Diomande.
But Sporting wants more.
Much more. Sporting is demanding a massive 80 million valuation.
Forest is employing a brilliant dual-track strategy here, balancing high-floor pragmatism with high-ceiling ambition.
Break down the pragmatism of the Schlager deal first. Why is a free transfer so crucial for a new manager?
Well, Oliver Glasner is a manager who relies on very specific, intense Bundesliga-style mechanics, usually a 3-4-2-1 system that requires absolute tactical discipline in the double pivot.
Very demanding.
Bringing in Zeverschlager, a player who inherently understands these German tactical concepts, for absolutely zero transfer fee is a masterstroke.
Right.
Schlager provides immediate midfield stability. He acts as an on-pitch translator for the manager's ideas, and the contract length, 2 years plus an option, completely minimizes long-term financial risk. It guarantees a high floor of competence for the squad.
Right. That covers the structural integrity of the team. But then you have the 40 million bid for Diomande, with Sporting demanding 80 million. That is eye-watering money for Nottingham Forest.
That is the high-ceiling track. While the free transfers stabilize the ship, the board is trying to negotiate statement-making deals for elite global prospects to exponentially raise the potential of the squad.
They want to level up.
They want to break through the glass ceiling into the upper echelon of the league. However, balking at the 80 million valuation is just as important as making the initial bid.
Why is that?
It shows they have a strict internal valuation model. They will spend big, but they absolutely refuse to be held for ransom.
Well, Forest might have the discipline to flinch at an 80 million valuation, but as our sources definitively show today, there is a league that doesn't even blink at those numbers.
The Saudi Pro League.
Exactly. Let's shift our focus entirely to the Middle East, because the Saudi Pro League flex we are seeing in these reports is absolutely staggering. We're talking about market hijackings that are rewriting the global hierarchy.
We have officially moved past the phase of the Saudi project being a theoretical disruptor. The paradigm shift is structural, and it is permanent.
Let's look at the Crycencio Summerville report. The sources are incredibly clear. Summerville was nearing a finalized move from West Ham to AS Roma.
Massive move.
Roma is a historic institution. The Colosseum, the passionate fan base, the prestige of Serie A. They put a very respectable $50 million offer on the table. But then Al Hilal swooped in and completely hijacked the deal.
Just out of nowhere.
Al Hilal's offer easily surpassed Roma's, and the sources state that a fee of $80 million will definitively seal the deal for West Ham to let him go.
We really need to pause and absorb the gravity of what this specific transfer means for the global ecosystem.
I mean, in the past, Saudi clubs were targeting the 34-year-old legends, right? The guys whose knees were gone, looking for one last massive payday before retiring.
Retirement tour, yeah.
Roma wouldn't even be in the market for those players. But Summerville is a prime-age, highly coveted talent playing in the peak of the English Premier League. Roma wanted him to be the cornerstone of their attack for the next 5 years.
And Al Hilal simply flexed their sovereign wealth through an extra $30 million on top of Roma's absolute maximum budget and walked away with the player.
It's insane.
AS Roma is bound by UEFA's financial fair play regulations. They literally cannot magically generate an extra $30 million without risking severe sporting sanctions.
But Al Hilal can.
Al Hilal is backed by the Public Investment Fund. They operate in a completely different financial stratosphere. Outbidding historic European royalty for prime age talent proves that the center of financial gravity is aggressively shifting eastward.
It's terrifying if you are a European sporting director. And Al Hilal isn't the only one flexing. Al Nassr has also made a massive move, signing Samu Costa from Mallorca to replace Marcelo Brozovic.
Right.
But the key detail here is that Al Nassr beat out RB Leipzig for Costa's signature. Costa explicitly chose the Saudi project over a German club renowned for developing talent and playing in the UEFA Champions League.
Beating a Champions League staple like Leipzig for an in-demand midfielder is a massive psychological victory for the league's legitimacy.
But here is where the strategy gets really nuanced, and I want you listening to catch this contrast. We have Al Hilal dropping $80 million, Al Nassr beating Champions League clubs, and then we have Neo SC.
Ah, yes.
The sources confirm that Malang Sarr has agreed to join Neo SC on a free transfer. Malang Sarr hasn't had a stable, elite-level career in years. It is two completely extreme ends of the spectrum.
It perfectly encapsulates the mechanical reality of building an entire league from scratch. You cannot just field a team of 80 million superstars.
Why not? If you have infinite money, why not buy 11 Summervilles?
Because of squad registration rules and foreign player limits.
Oh, right.
The Saudi League mandates a specific balance of domestic players and foreign imports. You need depth to survive a long season, and you need players who bring European professionalism to the training ground without demanding 80 million transfer fees.
So it's a balancing act.
Exactly. So they execute a dual mandate. You make the massive statement signings to generate global headlines and secure top-tier quality. But you use the free agency market to sweep up European fringe players like Malang Sarr to build out the structural foundation and depth of the rosters.
It's highly pragmatic asset management running parallel to extreme extravagance.
It is an entire ecosystem being terraformed in real time.
But while Saudi Arabia is buying the finished products, Europe's absolute elite are fighting tooth and nail in a completely different arena. They are fighting over the raw materials.
The teenagers.
Exactly. Let's dive into segment 5, what I'm calling the youth arms race. And specifically, we need to talk about the mathematics of the 20% rule.
The youth market is where the true strategic warfare happens. If you control the academies, you control the supply chain for the next decade.
Let's start with Tottenham Hotspur, who are walking a very delicate mathematical tightrope. Our reports show that Spurs flat out rejected a massive $46 million bid from Newcastle United for their young midfielder, Lucas Bergvall.
£46 million. For a player who is still essentially potential, is an immense amount of capital to refuse.
It is. But then, in the very next breath, Spurs turn around and sell their young striker, Will Lancashire, to Middlesbrough.
Right.
But look at the financial architecture of this deal. $10 million up front, another $10 million in potential add-ons, a contract running until June 2031, A&D, a 20% sell-on clause.
This is a masterclass in economic modeling, specifically the concept of future value versus immediate realization.
Break down the risk calculation here for me, because turning down $46 million for Bergvall seems borderline negligent unless they have absolute certainty he's a generational talent.
Well, Tottenham's data analytics department and coaching staff clearly believe that Bergvall's ceiling is astronomical.
They must.
In their internal models, they likely project his future value to be north of $100 million, or they view him as the irreplaceable foundational piece of their midfield for the next 8 years. The projected future sporting and financial potential vastly outweighs the immediate £46 million cash injection. Keeping him is a declaration of immense institutional faith.
But with Lancashire, a striker, they clearly don't have that same faith.
It's not necessarily a lack of faith. It's a difference in developmental pathways. Strikers are notoriously volatile assets.
Ow.
They require immense amounts of high-pressure game time to develop their instincts, which Lancashire simply will not get sitting behind Tottenham's established forwards.
Right, he'd just ride the bench.
Exactly. So instead of letting him rot on the bench and depreciate in value, they structure a deal designed to minimize their risk and maximize future passive income.
Okay, walk me through that.
They secure $10 million guaranteed cash today to balance the books. If he hits certain appearance or goal metrics in the championship, they get another £10 million.
And if he absolutely explodes, let's say he scores 25 goals, becomes the hottest property in England, and a Premier League team buys him from Middlesbrough in 2 years for $50 million.
Then the trap springs.
Spurs get 20% of that $50 million, which is another $10 million, without having to do a single second of the developmental work.
Precisely. They have outsourced the risk of his development to Middlesbrough while retaining a significant chunk of his upside equity.
And that 20% number is not a coincidence. I have to point this out because it is literally everywhere in our sources today.
Oh, it's the magic number.
Look at Barcelona. They just bought an 18-year-old winger, Jesse Bisiwu, from Club Brugge for $8.5 million plus a 20% sell-on clause.
Right.
Simultaneously, Barcelona sold Andres Cuenca to Como on a long-term deal for a measly $700,000, but again, attached a 20% sell-on clause. Football clubs are literally acting like Silicon Valley venture capitalists. They are keeping equity in human beings.
Venture capitalism is the exact right framework to view this through. The 20% sell-on clause has become the ultimate financial safety net in the youth arms race.
But why exactly 20%? Why not 10% or 50%?
It is the mathematical sweet spot of negotiation.
How does that work?
If a selling club demands 40% or 50%, the buying club loses all incentive to develop the player because half of the eventual profit vanishes. It cripples the buyer's future financial flexibility.
So the buyer just walks away.
Exactly. But if it's only 5% or 10%, it's barely worth the legal paperwork for the selling club.
I see.
20% is high enough to guarantee a substantial balance sheet altering windfall if the player fulfills their potential, but low enough that the buying club still takes the lion's share of the profit.
It keeps everyone motivated.
Right. For a club like Barcelona, whose finances have been famously disastrous, inserting a 20% clause on a player like Cuenca means that even if they're desperate for cash and sell him for a tiny $700K seat today, they retain long-term equity.
Right.
If he thrives in Italy and sells for $30 million later, Barcelona cashes a $6 million check out of thin air.
It's buying stock options in teenagers.
Yeah.
And while Barca's playing the venture capitalist game, Real Madrid and Manchester City are operating with authoritarian control over the global talent pool.
They don't just participate in the market. They dictate the terms of engagement.
Absolutely. The reports indicate that Real Madrid has laid down absolute mandates regarding 2 of their prospects. Franco Mastantuono is only allowed to leave the club on a pure loan.
No permanent option.
No negotiations, just a temporary rental. Meanwhile, a different rule applies to Raul Asensio. Madrid is openly willing to accept either a loan or a permanent transfer for him.
This level of micromanagement highlights their supreme confidence in their internal scouting algorithms.
They know exactly what they have.
Madrid knows exactly who they view as a core asset. Mastantuono is classified as a future first-team Galactico. He is sent out solely to gain physical maturity and match sharpness before returning to the mothership.
And Asensio.
Asensio is classified as a liquid asset. He is deemed expendable for the right injection of cash. They leave absolutely zero ambiguity in the market.
And Manchester City is just outright pillaging their domestic rivals. Our sources confirm City has snatched 16-year-old Mishel Nduka directly from Arsenal's academy, agreeing to a scholarship contract.
When you tie all of these threads together, City poaching elite youth from a direct title rival like Arsenal, Madrid legally dictating exact developmental loan terms, Barca playing the long-term equity game, it demonstrates how the absolute elite clubs hoard and control the raw materials of the sport.
They treat their academies not as schools, but as high-yield financial portfolios.
They're aggressively cornering the market on potential so that nobody else can have it.
It is a breathtakingly ruthless environment. But, this brings up a massive question for you listening.
It really does.
With all this immense money flying around the Premier League, the literal infinite wealth of the Saudi Pro League hijacking prime-age stars, and the absolute elite clubs hoarding all the best teenagers, how do the rest of the European clubs even keep their lights on?
It's a great question.
How does a mid-table team in Italy or a club in Scotland survive in an ecosystem literally designed to crush them?
By relying on elite subterranean scouting, exploiting market inefficiencies, and most importantly, understanding and manipulating the domino effect.
Let's talk about those market inefficiencies, because this next segment is all about European bargain hunting. Serie A in Italy seems to be the absolute grandmaster of this dark art.
They are brilliant at it.
Let's look at Napoli. The reports state Napoli has offered $10 million to Boca Juniors for Ezequiel Zeballos. But the fascinating part is the leverage being deployed here.
A leverage is everything.
Zeballos already explicitly rejected a $5 million move to CSKA Moscow. He has already agreed to personal terms with Napoli and communicated that he only wants a move to Italy. Boca Juniors hasn't answered yet.
This is classic Italian sporting director wizardry. Napoli recognizes that Boca Juniors is in a very precarious position, and they are weaponizing the player's own desires against his current employer.
It's brilliant leverage. If Zeballos publicly refuses to go anywhere but Napoli, Boca Juniors is trapped.
Completely trapped.
They either accept the $10 million or they risk keeping a deeply unhappy, unmotivated player whose market value will only violently depreciate over the next year. Napoli isn't overpaying. They are using player power as a financial weapon to force a bargain.
Exactly. It's a calculated standoff. They are forcing Boca to do the math on the cost of a toxic locker room versus a slightly lower transfer fee.
And speaking of calculated risks, Venezia is making a massive, fascinating play. They're offering a 3-year deal to former Arsenal defender Takehiro Tomiyasu, who is currently navigating the market as a free agent.
This is the ultimate risk-reward scenario for a club trying to establish a foothold in a top league. Venezia doesn't have the budget to buy a starting Premier League defender in their prime.
Because Tomiyasu has obvious elite pedigree, right? He is incredibly talented, technically sound, and tactically versatile.
But the elephant in the room is his medical file.
Right. The guy has been plagued by severe recurring injuries. That is the only reason a player of his caliber is a free agent in the first place.
And that medical history is the exact market inefficiency Venezia is exploiting. They are gambling on their own medical and sports science departments.
Hoping they can fix him.
Yes. They are acquiring elite tactical intelligence, international experience, and Premier League pedigree without paying a single euro in transfer fees.
It's a lottery ticket. If Tomiyasu stays fit for even 20 games, just 60% of the season, his positional awareness and defensive solidity could single-handedly keep them clear of the relegation zone.
Which is worth tens of millions of euros in broadcast revenue.
Exactly. The medical staff at Venezia will be the most valuable employees at the club this season. If they can manage his physical load, it's the bargain of the decade. If his hamstrings give out in week 3, they are stuck with his wages for 3 years. It is high-wire squad building.
It's terrifying, but it's the only way they can compete.
Okay, as we near the bottom of this massive stack of reports, I want to do a rapid-fire look at what you call the domino effect.
My favorite part.
Because looking at these final verified reports, the interconnectedness of this global market is mesmerizing. It's a massive jigsaw puzzle where one piece moves and shifts the entire board. Let me trace these lines for you real quick.
Please do. This is where you see the lifeblood of the economy flowing.
First, Bologna is actively replacing outgoing players by securing Nigerian defender Raheem Al-Hassan from Spanish second division side Real Oviedo.
Right.
It's a loan deal with a $3.5 million option to buy. Because Bologna secured that defender, they are freeing up their goalkeeper, Federico Ravaglia, to move to England to join championship side Watford.
Moving down the chain.
Right. Meanwhile, Leeds United has permanently sold their left back, Isaac Schmidt, to the Swiss club Young Boys. And finally, Scottish giants Celtic are reportedly finalizing a deal to sign midfielder Mika Var from German second division side Paderborn.
This sequence perfectly illustrates the global financial supply chain. The massive clubs at the top hoard the wealth, but the friction of their movements causes cash to cascade down through the lower tiers.
It really is a chain reaction. A player moves to Switzerland, which injects cash into Leeds, which frees up wage space in the English Championship for Watford to buy a goalkeeper from Italy. which forces Bologna to dip into the Spanish second division to find a replacement defender, dropping a $3.5 million option into the lap of Real Oviedo. One single transfer at the top can trigger 3 or 4 secondary moves across completely different countries and tax brackets.
And this constant churning velocity of money is how the 99% of clubs survive outside the billionaire bubbles.
They have to rely on it.
They don't have the luxury of buying the 80 million finished product. They have to scout the German second division for Mika Bauer. They have to look at the Spanish lower leagues for Rahim Al-Hassan.
Finding the hidden gems.
Right. They rely on massive scouting networks to find microscopic value where the giants aren't looking, and they rely on the constant domino effect of the transfer market to keep their squads fresh and financially solvent.
Okay, we have officially cleared the desk. Not a single report left behind, just like I promised. We have covered every hijacked deal, every managerial ideological shift, and every 16-year-old stock option. Bring it all together for us. Synthesize this madness.
If we look at the totality of the July 2026 transfer window so far, the conclusion is inescapable.
What is it?
From Jeff Bezos' billions potentially rewriting the cultural and financial identity of Liverpool to the granular mathematics of 20% sell-on clauses for academy scholars, football has permanently mutated.
It's not just a sport anymore.
No, it is an incredibly complex, deeply layered global commodity market. Every single club, whether it's Real Madrid exerting authoritarian control over youth, Al Hilal flexing limitless sovereign wealth, or Venezia rolling the dice on injured free agents, is desperately searching for a sliver of leverage.
A way to survive.
They are all just trying to survive, adapt, and conquer in a financial ecosystem that grows more ruthless and detached from its romantic origins by the day.
It's a breathtaking feat of human organization, and honestly a little terrifying to observe up close. Which leads me to a final provocative thought for you, the listener, to mull over as you go about your day.
Leave him with something heavy.
I will. With private equity billionaires entering the boardroom, sovereign wealth funds completely obliterating the traditional financial goalposts like Al Hilal casually dropping 80 million just to swat Roma aside, and elite clubs legally hoarding the rights to the best teenagers on the planet. Are we entering an era where the concept of a fairy tale underdog in football is mathematically impossible?
Wow.
Can a true David ever beat Goliath again when Goliath owns the stadium, writes the regulations, employs the referees, and already owns 20% of David's best young players?
It is a chilling thought, but an absolutely necessary question for the future of the sport.
I want to thank you all once again for being a part of this deep dive. Your loyalty and curiosity are what keep this show alive. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed exploring this absolute madness with us. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and definitely take some time to explore these geopolitical sports shifts on your own. See you next time, where the trading floor never sleeps.